Asking for it. A Novel Approach. Episode 22. Chapter 89. Pensacola, Baton Rouge, Houston, Austin, and on out into the desert. Each day Lance does about 12 hours on the road, including 2 food and gas stops, and 2 more roadside rest and stretching sessions. The miles disappear behind him. Michaela smiles in his mind's eye each morning before he forsakes the starched sheets of whichever day's inn he found at the previous day's end. For the duration of the new day's ride, Lance remains in a mental zone. He's contemplative, though more upbeat with every state line he crosses. A low-level exhilaration is building, anticipation of seeing Michaela, piqued by all the X factors capable still of foiling him. Occasionally, he catches himself pushing too hard. From the rear window of a minivan, a child gives him the thumbs up when Lance blows past at double their speed. Unwilling to take a long grade at a crawl, he opens the throttle again, only just threading in between loaded-down trucks, groaning their way up. There's nothing truly reckless in these incidents, but his autopilot could perhaps use some calibrating. The Norton is not equipped with cruise control, but it eats up the long, unspooling interstate flawlessly. Averaging 500 miles daily and not completely killing himself doing it, Lance is as pleased with his own performance as he is with the Norton 961. Shiatsu Sam would be proud of him. By the end of each day, his wrists feel flimsy, and his shoulders are cramped at the base of his neck. His lower back aches from all the time spent hunched forward, reaching over the big tank for the bars, reaching perhaps for Michaela and the end of the road in L.A. At the end of day 4, Lance exits from the I-10 West at Telegraph Pass, Arizona. He's done his miles for the day. Within a very few more miles, it's California. Tomorrow he'll be in L.A. Telegraph Pass. Lance likes the frontier days sound of the place. And it's interesting geographically. The highway disappears up into a lofty little cradle where 2 shoulders of weathered rock meet, another mile up the road. The sun probably disappeared behind these pinkish rock buttes a good while ago. Lance takes the exit and rolls into town, immediately realizing that he maybe missed a turning someplace. Calling this a town would be a stretch. There's what could be a general store, or possibly a saloon, an unpainted board and batten building, likely there 100 years or more. A couple of smaller outbuildings as well, and that's about the size of the place. 6 people, though, beers in hand, 6 pickup trucks, all tailgates down. It looks like the remnants of a party. Several hay bales are arranged before a flatbed trailer that has served as a stage. A guitar amplifier and a pair of partially dismantled microphone stands are still there in evidence. Lance finds a bit of solid ground to one side of the sandy lot and parks his Norton. 5 out of the 6 partiers hardly cast him a glance as they drain their beers and strike what equipment remains from the improvised stage. They move, lazy with booze, dusty in their desert dweller's attire. Lance has his helmet off and his gloves off and stands stretching the stiffness out of his back. The locals are all slamming doors and revving up engines to leave. The last to depart weaves her way across the sand lot towards him. She has a stubby green bottle in one hand and a king can of Budweiser in the other. She's in her mid-40s maybe, beat straw cowboy hat holding down wind-blown sandy locks, boots and jeans, leather vest over a faded plaid cotton shirt. She comes up to Lance and swings the Budweiser in his direction in greeting. He misses it, but she hasn't let go, so she tries again with a lopsided smile. "Here, shit. You look like you could use a cold one. I don't give my Mickeys here to no one, but you can have the last of this horse piss if you want." Lance manages to snag the can on her second try. He thanks her, but she doesn't seem to hear him. She's tilted her head back to peer up at him, though, up from underneath the brim of her hat. Her complexion is slightly sandblasted. She is so amused with booze that her muscular smile bunches her cheeks up till her eyes are all but shut tight. "Aw, fuck, I'd better get my ass out of here." She guffaws explosively, a mist of her spittle spattering Lance's leathers. She whoops, long and loudly, staggering back a few steps. Dropping her empty green bottle in the dirt, she aims a parting salute in his general direction. Apparently, she'll leave in the remaining pickup truck. Lance begins to follow her over, formulating some concern over her condition and driving. One hand on the driver's door handle, she spins around without letting go and sways a little, sizing him up. "Listen, now, I appreciate your concern and all, but I gotta tell you, my old man just won't. Not at all. So hasta luego, motherfucker!" She leaned back and aimed that last parting gesture at the top of Telegraph Pass. The fucker comes back twice, a long and lean echo. She blows Lance a laughing kiss, heaves the door open, and swings herself up behind the wheel. Lance steps back and raises his beer to her. She guns the engine and leaves a big red rooster tail of dust in farewell. The busy interstate is only a half-mile back, behind the ridge he crossed coming in. A town called Telegraph Pass may not be much further off, but the silence that falls in the drunken cowgirl's wake is impressive. Lance drinks deeply from the cool beer he's been gifted. He looks around the abandoned little outpost, stretches out on some hay bales by the flatbed stage, and admires the first stars gracing the darkening azure Arizona sky. At the end of his beer, he's almost asleep, one arm behind his head for a pillow. He drifts a while longer, there under the multiplying stars, until a big rig groans up the pass on the I-10, disturbing his reverie. It's getting chilly. He makes the considerable effort required to rise from his repose. Back on his feet, empty beer can in one hand, he takes a mental picture of the place. Back on the bike, he picks his way cautiously up along the darkened dirt track and service road, then back onto I-10 West and the way to L.A. Next exit is for Yuma, California. Basically, desert, popular with off-road automotive enthusiasts. He's divined this from all the Yuma off-road bumper stickers he's been seeing all day on the road. There'll have to be at least a Motel 6 in the area, and low-budget accommodations are all he needs before his final day's ride. He rides up now into the crotch of Telegraph Pass, and down again into California. Laid out below and before him, the sparsely spangled desert night stretches to the final glow on the far west horizon. Lance feels elation, something corroborating a former hunch he's had. He's always related to those who make the move west. Though he retreated from his own trip, all the way back to Florida some 20 years back, he still feels the allegiance. Looking out to the deep purple and orange horizon is like looking into his destiny, or the dying embers of a campfire at least, something you hope might just last until dawn. Chapter 90. California is not just another pretty face. It's much more than the ocean and desert, redwoods, orange groves, or the Hollywood Hills. Types that arrive here from everywhere else. The wanderers and the ideas they've brought along with them, in backpacks, in beat suitcases, and the backs of loaded SUVs. California actually arrives with them, in their fever dreams and last-ditch efforts to make something larger than their lives. Before they collapse and expire, pushed to the teetering edge of the continent, they create California. They place the little pebble of their own lives' experiences on the glittering heap that dazzles in the rest of America's eyes. When he hits L.A., Lance doesn't even stop to find himself a room. He wheels into Meekness's narrow alleyway, dodges a thick puddle of some nasty restaurant effluent, and coasts to a halt at the decrepit red-framed door. He finds a note impaled on a rusty nail in the door's center. "Ted, are you dead?" There's a number beneath. Lance knocks and waits a minute before thumbing the number into his cell. He realizes he still has his helmet on, fails to cancel the call, pocketing the phone instead while he removes the helmet and stacks it carefully with his gloves neatly on the Norton's tank. On the far side of Charlie's tiny kitchen, there's a space-saver fold-down countertop affixed to the wall. Meekness is standing before it, pecking at his keyboard, a wasted and wounded Hemingway. The whole arrangement is just a tad high for him, but he is able, with some minor contortions, to get his bad arm in the sling up to meet the level of the countertop. In this way he manages to write, or at least to go through the motions. Ruth Ann can tell he is struggling as much with the content as the delivery. Manfred is not answering his cell phone. It's been ringing for a minute straight when Ruth Ann tires of it. "Would you like me to answer that?" Manfred makes a desperate lurch in the phone's direction. Reaching out for it, he encounters a wall of pain. He catches a loose edge in the kitchen carpet as well, and for the second time in as many days finds himself sprawled on that kitchen floor. But he has the cell in his hand, and he answers on the first incomplete ring. "Ted? Ted!" Ah, fuck. He winces, looking at the out-of-town number on the cell's display. He doesn't recognize the area code. Ruth Ann has made it over to help, but Meekness waves her off. He struggles back to his feet, alternately swearing prodigious oaths and sucking breath in against the pain, straining it noisily between his teeth. Manfred? He's ready to give up and accept the maternal concern when the phone begins ringing again. He hardly notices the new jab of pain as he answers. "Who the fuck's there?" Good and grace-filled morning to you too, Manfred." Jesus." "Nope, Lance here. Lance Abiarty. You remember me from school." Well, aren't we blessed? Wit has finally arrived in the West." "Yeah, okay, alrighty then. About that treatment we discussed." "Fuck your treatment. Where's my wine you never brought?" His every word smacks of dereliction and hurts Manfred's own ears, hearing them as he imagines Ruth Ann hears them now. "Okay, don't get worked up. I don't need a treatment until you've had a chance to consider some new material anyway." "Yeah, sure. Come on over." "Manfred, I'm at your place. You're not here. But my iPhone says you're not very far away. Over on the canals, is it? Still in Venice, anyway. Shall I come to you?" "What the fuck are you, anyway? CIA?" "It's in your settings, Manfred. You have to shut it off if you don't want the digitally literate to know your whereabouts." Mother of God. "Worries, my friend. Manfred, no worries, and no enmity. I didn't imagine you'd have anything for me. Jim's streetheart sends his regards, by the way." "Okay, nice. Real nice chatting then. Bye." Meekness sits pondering the iPhone in his lap. He can feel Ruth Ann's look. He can even anticipate her expression without actually looking up. Finally, he tosses the cell aside in disgust, draws a deep breath, and turns to find Ruth Ann regarding him over the rim of a mug of tea. He's actually not a bad guy. Gave me a bit of work not too long ago. but he's still a pain in the ass. Blinking pure innocence behind the rim of her big steaming mug, Ruth Ann spreads the slender fingers of her free hand to disavow any type of judgment. Chapter 91. The Edge is in line at Purple Coffee. The livid paint scheme, the long queue, and boisterous crowd are all ganging up a bit on his nerves. Michaela said she's taken the day to explore, get a little exercise while she's at it, run up to the Griffiths Observatory or something. He isn't sure you can even get up there without a car, but she's trying it anyway. Just as well, a little space might do them good today. Still nothing promising work-wise. The place they've rented is starting to feel a little bit claustrophobic. The queue edges forward and the Edge feels an unreasonable resentment brewing. He had to get straight out of the apartment this morning. The tangle of discarded clothing that greeted him on the kitchenette floor seemed a clear provocation. In another 20 minutes, he needs to move that laundry from washer to dryer, where he's left it up the street at the Bourgeois Automat. The backup barista, fiddling for the past few minutes with the cafe's sound system, finally settles on what feels like blatant anti-ambiance. The local punk scene's finest excoriate the Purple's air as the Edge turns and leaves coffeeless. Back at their apartment an hour later, the brilliant day disappears behind him as he closes the door. The tiny window in the tiny bathroom at the back blazes with midday sun, but the rest of the space remains dim to shadowy. Michaela is on the couch with the Free Arts Weekly open on her lap. They exchange greetings as the Edge's eyes adjust and he finds a place to set down the laundry. He takes a seat at the opposite end of the long sofa. The old-school drip coffee maker, among the apartment's sparse inclusions, labors to fulfill its purpose in the kitchenette. Hearing it wheeze and spit puts the Edge in mind of their budget. Purple coffee is menacing their meager savings. Michaela scowls at the free will astrology column in the back of the weekly. Yesterday, the end of the tiny baggie of free cocaine triggered a mild oppression she still feels at present. The coke lasted her as many days as it would have minutes for the Samba Man producer. She'd polished it off on principle, for Edgy's benefit, really. But it also seemed to herald the conclusion of their charmed arrival in the City of Angels. The Edge resumes poring over the classifieds for work. Not wanting to irk Michaela, he's kept to himself the possibilities of mechanics apprenticeships or general laboring. Michaela's cell rings. She snatches it up off the coffee table, abandoning Rob Brezhny's wisdom on the grungy carpet. It's good news, the Edge can tell from her beaming expression. It's Lance, he can guess, from the way she rapidly attenuates her enthusiasm. Hang on, I'm gonna put you on speakerphone here so Edgy can hear. Yeah, okay, great. Hi, Edge. Listen, you guys up for a chat and some coffee? They both look toward the racket continuing in the kitchenette. Yes! Wait, what, are you here in L.A.? Yeah, I'm not far away from you. I could be there in a few minutes. Put on the coffee. No! Michaela has shouted. No, we don't have any. Meet us at Purple Coffee, out on Sunset, near the corner of Tamarind. You know where it is? West Hollywood is somewhat familiar to me, yes. Michaela's eyes bulged just a little at Lance's just possibly sarcastic tone. Now or later? Oh, now is good. Michaela replied without consulting the Edge, but she doesn't need to insist on his coming along. When they're clear of the building's drive-in entrance, she lengthens her stride. It's possible she'll break into a trot. Arriving before Lance, they choose to loiter on the folding chairs out front while waiting. Before long, he pulls up, but riding a motorcycle and wearing a full-face helmet with tinted visor, neither of them could possibly recognize him. Michaela watches the leather-clad motorcyclist park, step off the bike, and remove his helmet. The Edge is checking out the cafe's available seating when Michaela exclaims, "Get the fuck out of here! Where the hell did you get this thing?" This glamorous example of British automotive engineering, you mean? Well, Fort Myers, actually. Just didn't look right in Miami, so I thought I'd ride her out here. You rode Sporty Spice here all the way from Florida? She looks to the Edge for his opinion, but the Edge keeps his counsel. Yeah, well, Back was crying out for the hot tub by each day's end, but thankfully we're a land rich in hot tubs. Well, I have to say I'm impressed. She's circling Lance now, appraising his riding gear. I'm only going to do this once now, so don't get any ideas. She grabs a handful of leather ass cheek. Didn't know I had a leather fetish, did ya? Okay, let's move this inside. Edgy and I haven't had a good caffeine fix all day. Your girlfriend in there, honey pup? The Edge has in fact scanned the room for the potential awkwardness that is Mina Weingarten. He hoped to have been more circumspect. They've yet to come and not find the voluble punk fashion vixen revolving lazily on one of the bar stools in the window area. iPhone in one hand, she'd be nursing a refill in the other, while consulting various social media and throwing occasional glances out to the real world around her. All their caffeine needs addressed, the three take seats and pause to assess their reunion. Lance and Michaela are sharing a little moment. Lance has his hands spread to take in the three of them. His expression says, "Well, look at us now." Michaela is grinning and gives her head a little shake. The Edge is shaking his head as well, though with another object altogether. A skinny little thug is giving him the stink eye as he comes in through the door. A battered denim vest leaves some familiar tattoos exposed on his tiny arms. The penciled, thin mustache is quite convincing. With a certain menace, the kid digs an enormous chained wallet out from his baggy denim shorts as he passes close by their table en route to the barista. Michaela is engrossed in something Lance is saying when the thug stops short to glare at their little group, standing off only a couple of feet. Lance is the first forced to look up. "Nice ride out there." "Thanks. Little heavy on the chrome for a sport bike, but nice." Michaela has been ignoring the intrusion, but something in the slightly gruff exchange makes her look around. "Holy fuck. Mina." "Miami." "What?" "The name's Miami Cut. Where you're from, right? I take what's yours." Michaela looks to the Edge, wondering if perhaps he knows any more than she about this latest bit of L.A. loopiness. The Edge is studious in evading the whole situation. Slightly bemused, Michaela gives a little shrug and introduces the thug. "Okay then, Lance Abiarte, Miami Weingarten." "Fuck that! Weingarten sound like a badass outlaw name to you, bitch?" "Okay, Miami Vice. My friend, wannabe lover, and sometimes manager, Lance Abiarte." "Cut. Miami Cut." "Ah, fuck it, I can't stay mad at those big brown eyes." Here, he leans in close to Michaela and stage whispers. "Not to mention the big brown boobs." "Bitch, the last person to comment on my girls I choked out with extreme prejudice. Now be a good little criminal and take a seat while I'm still offering." Lance has followed the conversation, amused but trying all the while to place the name behind the name of Miami Cut. He knows a Gabe Weingarten, producer. Back in Lance's school days, Weingarten made pithy experimental shorts that screened in loft parties, dense with students high on art, literature, drugs, and alcohol. He isn't sure. It might be just the mustache, but he thinks he can see a resemblance. Michaela, when I called from Florida, you were telling me about a gal, chocked full of film ideas. Father in the biz? Yeah, every time we came in, she'd be sitting right there where this guy's taking up space now. Hey, I'm not invested in all this he-she bullshit. I'm gender fluid. Aight? Aighty then, Lance. You were saying? No, you were telling me, remember? The Edge was coming out of the closet. You'd be the subject of a documentary. Everything perfect for reality TV. You said all that shit? Michaela looks at Miami Cut for a beat before replying. Well, that's what you were saying. Whoa, maybe I floated a concept. Yeah, maybe we were discussing shit like that, without the details, like the Edge hears sexuality and all. Sounds to me like you've been writing a film all of your own. They've all shot a look or two at the Edge by now. He's smiling a thin, inscrutable smile. Far away from this West Hollywood cafe, his thoughts are dammed up inside him, seeking some kind of breach. He excuses himself and heads for the restroom. The conversation stops abruptly and only slowly resumes. Only Lance notices as the Edge veers off the restroom trajectory and mixes in with a group of patrons heading out the door to the street. So, Miami. Something of a gangster film buff, are you? Something funny about that? No. Matter of fact, I knew a guy just like you back in the 70s when I was at school here. He used to boost free liquor from art openings all over town. Then he'd sell it at exorbitant prices at screenings for his own films. Gabe the Knave, we used to call him. Miami Cut has been stifling a little yawn. Now she looks from Michaela to Lance and back like she smells a rat. Wow, ancient history. Don't sound much like me, though. Small time. I'm a blowing up dog. I'd be all like Crystal and bitches for real. I don't know. I've heard old Gabe did pretty well for himself. Yeah, well, fascinating stuff and all, but I could feel a little nap coming on. So later, skaters. Miami leans into Michaela's ear again. Say, see ya to the champ for me. Michaela glares hard in reply as Miami cuts a path to the door, tiny chest outthrust, maintaining an exaggerated pimp's roll to her step. Michaela shakes her head a little helplessly, then looks back to Lance. Gabe Weingarten? Yeah, a couple of award winners, several more confections that did well enough over the years. I'd have to bet your friend's a Gabe Weingarten co-production herself. Hollywood's a small world. It's no small town, but it is... Wait a minute. Where the hell's Edgy? He slipped out on his toilet run. I was going to say, but I was kind of hoping it would end up just us two anyway. Is he playing with words? Michaela hates it, but she just can't tell. He has a shit-eating grin on him that is as new as the whole biker thing. And the Edge, just taken off like that. What's that about? He has to have known his cover's been getting blown. Still, the Edge she knows doesn't sneak off when the going gets weird. The new and revitalized Lance is still grinning. Is there trouble in her harem? About freaking time, if there is. It's fine by her. But she's missed what Lance has been saying. Sorry, what was that? I was saying it looks like California agrees with you. California? I wouldn't know. This couple of blocks of sunset is all I see, and it looks a lot like the Strip back in Port St. Lucie to me. I guess I saw a bit of California from your buddy's mansion up there in that canyon. I remember a glamorous sunset over a distant sea of city lights. Not sure, though. I was half numb on the outside and twerking inside like a rap star's hoe. Yeah, well, I'm real sorry about that. It can be hard to see the hills for all the Hollywood sometimes. And seeing California from LA is like looking out from the inside of a snow globe. Another kind of snow sometimes, but, well, we'll take a little road trip soon. How's that? You'll see. Cali is not just another pretty face. She's ocean and desert, orange trees and Joshua trees. She's the marginal types that arrive here from everywhere else. The wanderers and everything they bring with them. You know, in the backpacks and beat suitcases, in their fever dreams and the last-ditch efforts they're making to make something of themselves, make something larger than their lives. Before they topple off the edge of the continent and into the Pacific, they create California. Place that little pebble of their lives in the glittering heap that dazzles in the rest of the world's eyes. Holy shit. Lance, you writing a book or something? Something get into you while you were riding that Spice Girl of yours across country? Sorry, I don't know. I guess I've always just loved this place. So why'd you leave? Ooh, that's a tough one. Asked myself a million times. Why does anyone pull up stakes and move on? Restlessness? Something missing? Grass is always greener, I guess. Huh. Sure it wasn't someone missing? Or maybe something scared you off? No, there was no one. I guess my old man, he passed away. I did head home for that. When I got back, things felt a bit different. When I was done with school, well, there probably was some existential stuff. Yeah, a bit of that too. I might have felt LA was too big a pond for a little Canadian fish like me. You went to school here? UCLA. Just audited a few courses in English. I dropped out of school back in Toronto, took my student loan and came out here. There was no way I could afford to enroll, but hey, I was on a roll, youthful enthusiasm and all that. Well, listen to you talking all about yourself for a change. Tell me about your childhood, the folks at home. Too much mama, not enough dad. Not a tragic tale, but enough to make an expat of me, I guess. An ex what? Too much mama sounds just about right to me. Yeah, not really that much to complain of, I guess. Although she did give me this embarrassing romantic name, plagued me all through high school. She also insisted I take dance lessons. Just before I was too old to force into things like that. Again, not exactly the stuff of lifelong scarring, but no buts about it. You turned out pretty darn good, Sir Dance-A-Lot. They share a little laugh at that and settle back into the cafe's semi-comfortable sofa. Lance's leather suit creaks some as he shifts his weight. Michaela feels mellow in a way she hasn't since leaving Fort Pierce. Of a sudden, she remembers the little cockbox. Hey, what about the DB-90? You found the keys, right? You know I never did. Get the fuck out of here. You're not still. Michaela peers closely, trying to make out a telltale contour inside the leather suit's crotch. Lance has a little chuckle at this. He doesn't want to dismiss the possibility too quickly. They weren't in my place, I can tell you that. You can imagine I did search pretty well high and low. Ever go through that monster purse of yours? Michaela affects an offended expression. Yes, of course. Now, come on, you're bullshitting me. If I did find 'em, I was still going to come out here and make you open it up for me anyway. Thought that was only fair. Wouldn't you say? She keeps stealing glances at his crotch. Okay, first off, no, I wouldn't say that's fair. You're a big boy, and big boys are responsible for what happens to them. But then again, I am a big girl, I guess. We're responsible for our actions too. So, just hypothetically speaking, given we're both responsible adults and all, do you think we could, say, collaborate on removal of the thing? Just if, I'm saying? If I still needed your help? He's looking at her with a smug confidence that completely belies the pathetic basis of the request. Michaela figures she can't go wrong. If he's still wearing the thing, she'll kill the inkling of guilt she feels by removing it. If he isn't, well, she'll have called his bluff. It's so strange. At the time, she'd thought, if he does this, it's because he needs to. She did kind of talk him into it, but it was his thing, so to speak. Still, provoking him into it had felt strange after the fact. Now it just seems funny. He's adopted this completely changed attitude, and it totally puts her at ease. She shakes her head in mild wonderment at the change. Well, I suppose I could maybe help out. Hypothetically, of course, and in a, purely administrative capacity, I guess. Yes, sure, I can help you out. Chapter 92. Lance has his meager luggage emptied out onto the big bed in his room at the Sofitel, Beverly Hills. His one-piece leathers are sprawled over a big easy chair like some deflated motorcyclist. Free of his second skin, his naked body is alive to the room's temperate AC. He's taking stock of his options while performing a few yoga stretches on the plush, sunlit broadloom. The last time Lance saw Gabe Weingarten in person, the man had been slightly sheepish, closing the door on a deal all but done. Lance had done the considerable legwork, and his client about to ascend 2 rungs on the entertainment business ladder. Mono had achieved some notoriety fronting the Crayolas, an LA-based punk act. He'd distinguished himself vomiting on various of the city's premier showbar stages. It won him a place in the hearts of LA's mosh pit mavens. Despite his band's incendiary live shows, Lance had read the writing on the punk's career wall when they met. Weeks later, when Gabe Weingarten slammed the door on their deal, Mono had been poised to feature in a music biopic, green-lighted at one of Hollywood's hotter houses of the day, thanks to Lance. When they dropped Mono, Mono dropped Lance. A year later, a Gabe Weingarten production introduced a slightly sanitized Mono to the world. His screen debut, 2 credits under the title, went viral before the term had been created. Box office driven by Mono's rumored engagement to the film's famous female lead didn't hurt. The movie grossed large. The marriage never took place, and Mono remained the inveterate hypersexual he was born to be. Gabe's V-mail kicks in after 7 rings. Gabe, Lance Abiarty here. I have something for you. She's a solid 10 on the husky-voiced, knee-weakening Mistress of Desire meter. She comes with a famously disappeared MMA ex-world champion. Oh, and your daughter says she'll beat you to the punch if you pass. Just saying. It's been a long time. I'm in town. Lance envisions a Hail Mary pass spiraling off into the LA backfield. He'd been second-string quarterback on his own high school football team. Success for the mature Lance Abiarty still means staying in the game and calling some plays. But if things go sideways for his little team today, it won't kill his professional pride. Somehow, the West Coast ground is now just that little bit firmer under his feet. Things closest to him seem newly doable. Feeling control over things further afield, that's just hubris. He'll call on Meekness again. Haunt the back streets of Venice if he has to. He climbs back into his leathers, having decided to shop for more casual riding gear, jeans and boots, a jacket just tough enough for the lower speeds and higher temperatures of tracking around town. He makes another note. He needs to get one of those little locks you put on the disc brake. Enough to deter the brazen broad daylight thief anyway. He tries Manfred's number once more, just for the hell of it. On the third ring, a woman's voice replies, a casual receptionist's tone. Lance gives her his name, lets her know he's an old friend, but that he has some writing work to offer as well. How old a friend, she wants to know. So, a very casual receptionist. He mentions the writing program at UCLA and their youthful group of hard-drinking lovers of literature. Lance Abierti? And you're a writer? Oh, I would love to claim as much, but no. I'm an agent and a producer, film and television. Manfred's actually been working on something for me. Oh, yes, he mentioned it. You know, he had a nasty fall the other day, and he's kind of shaken up over a friend's disappearing on him as well. I see. Is he okay, though? Not in the hospital? No, a short visit to the ER, but his arm's in a sling now, but I guess he's feeling better. He's out looking around the neighborhood for his friend right now. Huh. And he's left you to mind the shop? So to speak. Just left his cell behind, actually. But I worry. I haven't seen him in 20 years, and, well, can I ask you something? Of course. Has he been so beat up looking for long? I feel so bad for him. I don't know, but I should probably take a pinch of responsibility for the condition he's in. Well, I have to say that sounds strange to me. I haven't been all that close to him, but I have witnessed over time his transformation, let's say from acerbic wit to bitter drunk. It's my overall impression that Manfred has been enduringly self-destructive in his alcoholism and hasn't required much help from anyone else. There's a silence on the line. Well, it might explain the tarnished exterior, right? Honestly, it's hard to imagine anyone else being even remotely responsible for Manfred's state. I like to think I've offered assistance each time we've crossed paths over the years. Generally, I get disdain and derision in return. We were an item back in the day, and we just ran into each other, literally, 3 days ago. Meekness had managed a small number of not graceful couplings, usually following marathon sessions at one of the campus's bars, but Lance recalls there only ever being one item. I remember! Wow! Ruth Ann Danzig, darling of the department. You made the already great writer a legend. I tried to make him happy. Lance chuckles at that. After a beat, Ruth Ann joins in with a full-bodied laughter, cementing an intimacy of sorts. Lance, I think I remember you, too. I can't put a face to you, but I remember Manfred had some uncharacteristically jealous episodes towards the end of us. Manfred? That fortress of self-assurance? No one ever intimidated Manfred with their pen, but that didn't mean many didn't try. But where it came to writerly types with looks as well, if you were a particularly handsome or gifted undergrad, he may have... I can't imagine Meekness so much as uttering my name voluntarily, now or then. Yes, well, he could be the most circumspect of critics. Ha! Now I wonder if we're even talking about the same man. Literary colossus manqué? Presents like a shifty teenage graffiti punk? I guess it would be a shock if you haven't seen him in all this time. How did you run into each other, anyway? I ran him over with my e-bike. Unintentionally. Lance is laughing with more exuberance than he imagines appropriate when he has another call come in. He asks if she'd mind him calling her back. Abierti, Gabe Weingarten. I'll give you exactly 30 seconds to explain your cryptic reference to my daughter. Do I need to have you watched? Gabe! Listen, only wanted your professional attention here. Mina was in a cafe yesterday with friends of mine. The other two cryptically referred to. Complete coincidence. I apologize if I creeped you out. Jesus. All right. Okay, good. Little touchy around the family issues. Mina's mother's been writing me about all things daughterly for about 6 years now. Ever since that bat mitzvah gone bad. Okay, TMI. What can I do for you, Lance? A meeting. Short and sweet. I'll pitch you something hard. A lot of punch. Loads of back to the trough potential. I'll even bring the principals along. 15 minutes. Out on La Cienega. And you could be back to domestic bliss. Not even funny. But I won't get started. Sure, why not? I haven't had a blind date in ages. How about pearls? Let's see, 3 o'clock tomorrow.